Okay, I'm going to cover a couple different things here in this video. First is we're going to talk about the judge. The judge who Tracy seems to just keep going on and on that he had Alzheimer's when he did not have Alzheimer's while he was on that stand. He did not. He was not diagnosed with it until 2005. And my question to her is, even if he did have Alzheimer's, right? I wanted to know what mistakes that he made in the court that she could tell he had Alzheimer's. Had he not said, Mulder was asking him, because he made it clear that he was receiving treatment, right? So Mulder asked him, "Are you going to be sure to give the right rulings in this court?" And what the judge said was, "I might be to Z till Alzheimer's. I might be up to the Z in Alzheimer's, but I can clearly run this court." Mulder raised that question to him because he was trying to cast doubt, right? That's why he asked him that in open court. So he didn't have it. He wasn't diagnosed with it until 10 years after. All right. It's just like Alzheimer's is just like diabetes. It's a progressive disease. First you're pre-diabetic and then you go into certain stages. It's like cancer in certain stages. My question to her was, what did he do in the case that told you he had Alzheimer's without making that statement, without saying I'm up to up to Z, right? Because he never said I have Alzheimer's. She was trying to argue with me in Rich's chat that he said he had Alzheimer's. No, he did not say that. He said I may be up to Z, but he did not say I have Alzheimer's. He never said that. And then she's over there going, he can't even admit he said that. Yes, he did. He said he might be up to the Z. But she could never, when I kept asking her, what did he do in that court case to let you know something was going wrong with him without him making that statement? And she couldn't answer it. Right? And then the bottom line is he didn't make any mistakes in the court thing. And the 12 jurors didn't have Alzheimer's. So what's your fucking point? They're the ones that convicted her, not him. Okay, so I covered that real quick. And I also want to cover the taking of the fifth. Jimmy Patterson never said, I take the fifth. Frost did. He got his lawyer because he saw what they did to Patterson. And when they brought him up, he was prepared for it. When you take the fifth, right? When you say, I take the fifth on the grounds that it might incriminate me, that means you don't have to speak anymore about anything in the case. But they went on and answered the questions around the bugging of the gravesite. So it wasn't like he said, I take the fifth, I don't want to talk. First he was accused of a crime. Then the judge reminded him that he could take the fifth. And he still didn't say, I take the fifth. He still didn't say that. But he did refuse to answer the questions about the wiretapping until he could study the law and obtain a lawyer. Frost had a lawyer, so he did. He took the fifth. He flat said he was taking the fifth. All right? The judge suggested it. Well, the judge realized that Mulder was accusing this officer of a federal crime in open court. His Alzheimer's didn't stop him from saying, wait a minute, you can't do that. And offer Patterson the chance to take the fifth. He offered him the chance to take the fifth. And Patterson didn't take it at the time. He just said he wasn't going to answer any more questions on that subject. That's not the fifth. He don't have to answer any question. You could refuse to answer any question without taking the fifth. Period. So the judge made a good call on that. He also makes a good call right here for Darlie. He's reminded, because look, her attorneys did not want her to get on the stand. And he knew that. And he was trying to get her to not be on the stand. He was warning her, because so this is his Alzheimer in action here. This is the judge. Ma'am, you have the right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States not to testify in this case if you so desire. If you want to testify, no one can stop you. Ooh, look, a kitty. If you don't want to testify, no one can make you. Do you understand that? Where do you see Alzheimer's in that? He didn't have to say that to her. He's trying to get her to not take the stand. Yes, sir. If you and then he still goes on. If you testify, you're going to be considered like any other witness, and anything you say can and will be used against you. Plus, the state's attorneys will have the right to cross-examine you and ask you questions. Do you understand that? Man, that Alzheimer's setting in really good there. He don't know what the fuck he's doing, does he? He's doing this for Darlie. Yes, sir. Third time, if you elect not to testify, I will instruct the jury that they can not hold that against you for any reason whatsoever. Do you understand that? 3 times he tried to get her to stay off the stand. 3 times. But, he's got Alzheimer's. Seems to me like Darlie's the one's got Alzheimer's because she should not have got on the stand. She was her worst witness. And here's the 4th time, and I know you have discussed this. He's making sure that she really wants to testify. Here's the 5th time, and understanding all of that, do you wish to testify or not? Yes, sir. She had to go potty. And he let her. He made sure that she understood her rights. Okay? And anywhere, I encourage anybody who wants to listen to that crap that he had Alzheimer's, when you look at the transcripts, it's at darliefacts.files.wordpress.com. Look at anything where it says the court, because that's the judge. Look at anything where it says the court. And if anybody wants to see if this judge has Alzheimer's, just look at what he's saying in the courtroom. Look how he's handling the court. He's handling it amazingly. So my question to Tracy again, so I can get her off. That's the only 2 arguments she's got, is that damn letter and the Alzheimer's. All right? So I encourage Tracy again to prove he had Alzheimer's and to show what he did in the case that let you know he had Alzheimer's without him making the comment that I'm up to the Z. Where would you have seen, if he wouldn't have made that comment, would Alzheimer's be even coming up? Is there something in where he said something there? Would it come up? No. That's all you've got. That's it. Then you said something about Waddell lying on the stand and it's on your community post. I went over and looked and it's not. So put that up. I want to see it. Then you told me I was deflecting. Well, it's not even there. You said it was on your compost, but it's not there. All right, so let's move on. Let's get to the real nitty-gritty here. It looks to me like they started their alibi and their confusion right at their staging continued even to when she went on the stretcher. And this is Darren helping her. This is what Darren is complicit to. He's helping her. I just want to raise this question. Do you remember Darren helping you on the stretcher? Darren and there was another paramedic. Yeah. They tried to help me over to the stretcher, and when I stood up, Darren said something to me that my panties were gone. Oh, wait a minute, I got to move it down for you. Is this the first you realized? This is the first that my panties were even that they were gone. Okay, so back to the panties thing, just real quick. Darren is the one who said, your panties are gone. All right? She's sleeping in a Victoria's Secret nightgown. Did Darren check her to see if she had panties on before he went to bed? How do we know they were even there to be missing? So, Darren is the one that insinuated that. He's also the one that said the sock was his. He's also the one that noticed the nick in the necklace on the stand. Just those are foods for thought. And there's much ado about the bruising on her arm, which the doctors testified that the major bruising on her arm didn't appear for, they appear to be 24 to 48 hours old from the 6th. Okay, and my question is, those bruises are pretty significant. It looks like someone beat her with something. My question is, what did he beat her with? The little knife? Okay. Did you realize you had been beaten? No, sir. I thought the bruise on my right arm was because of the wound. I had no idea what it was from. Blunt trauma. Yes, blunt trauma. They're trying to rule out that it didn't come from the IV. Yeah, and she said, I've had IV before because they've done that. And when I spoke to Cyrilda, I had her up there, she told me that Darlie bruised easy and that when Damon was born, those IVs did that to Darlie. So we have some clarification of what Cyrilda said here. Okay, so my question would be, what did he beat her with? Because it would take a lot of effort to bruise that arm like that with blunt force trauma. When did he beat her? She said she didn't realize that he was being beat. She was being beat. She didn't even remember it. But she remembers her 5-year-old walking up to her and tapping her on the shoulder and saying, Mommy, Mommy. Just let that sink in real deep. She don't remember a 6-foot-tall one guy on top of her beating her arm. She don't remember that. But she remembers a 5-year-old mortally wounded child walking up to her, tapping her on the shoulder, and saying, Mommy, Mommy. She remembers that clearly. I'll ask you, Darlie, while you're at the hospital, if you realize anything unusual about the inside of your mouth. This is where we got the man having his hand over her mouth. Now, Darlie can't remember being beat the hell out of. She can't remember anything else. But she thinks that it was because he had his hand over her mouth. Common sense. She says, common sense would tell you that these bruises that I have came from an intruder. That's common sense. No, it's not. No fighting. The bruises and the stab marks would lead you to that inescapable conclusion. Well, that's why the staging was done, because they want to lead us to that inescapable conclusion. No recollection of being beat like that. Went to a psychic. They'll go to a psychic, but they won't retake that lie detector test that they've never released the results to the public. Because if they know that an inconclusive polygraph result, the protocol for that is to retake the test. Well, Darlie, you're a little late. Now, regarding the psychic, they say that they brought him over to Eagle Drive, blah, 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 blah. And go through the house with, yes, sir, it's not something that I really believe in or practice, but I think that when you are a parent and when you are desperate to find answers, that you will do just about anything. except for go on the Dr. Phil show, which DarlieRoutier refused to do, except for take the polygraph test again, which Darlie refuses to do, except for look into brain fingerprinting. They won't touch any of those things. Dr. Phil will own her, and DarlieRoutier knows that. Brain fingerprinting will show that she did the crime, and DarlieRoutier knows that. Taking another lie detector test will either come up with a lie or another inconclusive. She's not going to pass a lie detector test. Desperate to find answers. You'll say anything and do anything. And this isn't a huge lie, but, let's use it anyway because that's what supporters do. And what would you sing to them? I sang to them all kinds of songs. Okay, did they have any favorites? Yes, they had lots of favorites. I sang Jesus Loves Me to Drake every night. Every night. Except for it's not in your testimony and your written statement from the 6th of June. You didn't sing it to him that night. It's not written in your journal anywhere that you sang it to him. There's no video of you singing it to him. But you say every night. Not on the 6th. Here she blames her sister for having the idea of the silly string. All right? But it's Darlie that you see spraying it. I want to clarify that. They say, well, it wasn't even her idea. It was her sister's idea. But it was Darlie you see spraying it. And if you ask DarlieRoutier, she'll tell you that they still do the silly string to this day. We can also talk about 85J, the fingerprint that's unidentified, hairs that are unidentified. Here could be a reason for that. She had changed to a bunch of different people, and they weren't doing as good of a job as they normally would do. And so I had let them go. I had another lady come in and clean, and she was very nice, but every time she cleaned, she ended up breaking something. It ended up costing more money to have her clean than it was what she was breaking. So you were having people come in for the last 2 years and helping you clean. Yes, sir. Did you have some of them teenage girls ever help you watch over the kids? Well, I didn't necessarily say watch over, blah, blah, blah. So there were a lot of different people in that house in the weeks before the murders. Darlie hasn't been ruled out. They think it's a female print. Just think about that for a little bit. Now we're going to get into the reasons why Danelle should keep her mouth shut. Why a lot of them have kept their mouth shut. We're going to get into those reasons why it's not a good idea for Danelle to be out here saying her sister is innocent. We're going to get into that right now. Here's where it gets a little sticky. This question is, have you ever contemplated suicide any other time in your life? She says no. Okay. You said that you mentioned on your direct testimony about being molested by your stepfather. Molested. But by being molested a little by your stepfather, she says. Stepfather, what's his name? Denny. Okay, and what happened? How old were you? The first time I was 8 years old. Okay, and where is he now? He lives, I'm not exactly sure the name of the place, but it's a little bit further outside of Terrell. It's Trenton. On one of those little tiny drive-through towns. Okay, when was the last time you saw him? The last time I saw him, I believe, was on Mother's Day. He came over to pick up Danelle, my little sister. That's Mother's Day of 1996, last year, 1996. Yes, sir. Which had been how close to the murder? About 3 weeks. 3 weeks before the murder, she also wrote in her diary. Okay, in fact, on that date, you gave him, Devin and Damon, and let them go with him the home to stay for a couple days, for a day, for one day. This is the man that molested you? Yes, sir. Let me reiterate that. This is the man that molested you? Yes, sir. And you let him have your children? Yes, sir. Can I explain that? Just answer my question. I mean, if your lawyer wants you to explain it, he can have you do that. Okay, that is fine. A day. Incidentally, as far as that accusation of the molestation, the police were never called, were they? No, sir, I was 8 years old. That's a dumb answer. Because Mom could have called. When did your mother divorce him? 17. But on Mother's Day, your children were with him. Now she's saying it's half a day. A minute ago, she said it was a day. She's talking about going to see the strippers, that's fine. Annual event, Mother's Day out. Okay. So here we have Darlie saying that he molested her. Twice. And that the police were never called about it. And you know, I like Rich. Don't get me wrong. But when we mentioned this in his chat yesterday, that's no longer there. Rich got totally upset, kicked one person out for mentioning it, and said that we were disrespecting the family. We can't not talk about the family. Well, Dennis Doll isn't family anymore. He's not Darlie's family. He got upset and booted someone for asking this question. Why would you let your boys go with him? Why didn't your mother call the police on him? Rich got frustrated, booted that person, and then the whole thing pissed him off. Now, and this is just my opinion, and don't get me wrong, I like Rich. The reason why supporters get frustrated with this is because Danelle is out here telling everybody, in her own words, you can see it in my videos, you can see her say, he did not molest her. My father was a wonderful man. So the question is, I think the reason they don't want to touch on it is who's lying. Who's lying? Because when Danelle says he did not molest her, she might as well say, my sister is a fucking liar. And the fact that Darlie says it was an open conversation in her family about that molestation. All right? Danelle says she didn't know nothing about it. I'm going to say this again. Danelle said she didn't know about it. But in my text to her, you can see they protected me from it, blah, blah, blah. They had to protect Danelle from the fact that her father molested her sister, but Darlie has no problem with letting Devin and Damon go with him as long as Danelle was there. So if Danelle didn't know about the molestation, how's she to look out for what Dennis is doing? See, this is where the supporters get stuck. This is where they get stuck at. And then for Sully over there to say that this didn't affect Darlie at all, what the fuck? But this is where they get stuck. Because either Danelle's telling lies on her TikTok to the public, which she is, or Darlie lied on the stand. And then we'll take all that out of it and just think of it like this. The first time was when he was 8. When she was 8. She had to live with him for another 10 years. And in that time, Darlie Key and Dennis had 2 more children. And why they had those 2 more children, Darlie, being the oldest, her task was to watch them while they worked, which is fine. It's fine. So Darlie had to live with this man, look at him every day, look at his mother who didn't believe her, had to stay home and lose her childhood to watch these two kids from this man who molested her that nobody believed her. That could lead to some serious mental issues, period. That can lead to anger, revenge, aggression. Look it up. This is why the supporters don't want to touch this. Because Danelle's not credible when she says he's not a molester, and you can see that in her own words with her name behind it. Danelle is no longer credible, or Darlie sat there and lied on the fucking stand. I'm going to tell you something else that's interesting. Now, this is Dennis Stahl, and this is not a dox. This is public information. He's a high-profile person mentioned in a national crime court case. So this is not a dox. This page is not private. This page is out there for everyone to see. This is Dennis, and I haven't seen this page for the longest time. I looked under here, and I saw that it said we have one mutual friend. And that's fine for him to get to know all the family. This is a public page. Now, I'm going to get off of this. Go back to this. So, like I said, this is where they're stuck. This is where Rich sees them lying now. So if anybody's looking at Fugate 1982 on TikTok and listening to this woman talk about how her sister is innocent, remember, she called her sister a liar. She said he's not a molester. So let that sit in. I know Darlie's guilty. And people keep asking me, why did I switch from support to non-support? It's because the family kept lying. And we kept catching them in lies as supporters. I kept catching them in lies as supporters. I'm sure there's some supporter out there that's watching this right now that's going, you know what? I see it too. Because they lie to me. The only reason someone would tell a lie is to deflect from the truth.